All right, greetings and welcome to the Eccentric Perspective. I am your host, Blake Wally. It is March 27th of 2025, Thursday, and I'll be here for an hour, maybe an hour and a half at the most, covering the latest news and current events. Today, the headline story, I think I called it bias and brainwashing. Is it time to defund NPR? Yeah, we've got several other stories. Let me jump to the headlines. Well, there's the thumbnail there. There's CEO Katherine Maher. We'll see if she lasts a while. I don't know. It's an interesting day for her, getting grilled on Capitol Hill. But that's the headline. And then we've got some more. So, should they be defunded for their obvious biases? Should NPR CEO Katherine Maher, should she resign ASAP? And the Atlantic, do they overplay their hand to oust Hegseth? And Judge Boasberg, should he be investigated for conflicts? Or I could say conflicts of interest. I just didn't have enough room, obviously. And Trump, is he right to primary Massie and endorse Lindsey? And 20 years in prison for vandalizing Teslas. But is that overkill? And finally, is the CIA, are they covering up the location of the Ark of the Covenant? So it'll be these stories and perhaps more. We'll see if there's any breaking news. And of course, if you guys have anything you'd like to share with the rest of the class, feel free to drop a line in the chat. We'll cover that up, incorporate it somehow. Perhaps you'd like to feedback, trolling, joking, who knows? Whatever you want in the chat box. And we'll see. We'll have the interaction or not. It's all good. So let's run an intro. Let's get started on the big NPR story. All right, ready? Begin. All right. Well, welcome back. Let's begin. This is gonna be this might take a while. There's a lot of video clips to get to. I got to do a thorough job on this. Perhaps drive that stake into the heart of the NPR beast that has been responsible for. Basically, we got taxpayers funding a disinformation campaign. Maybe, or perhaps I'm wrong. I don't know. We'll jump into it. So here's the. We'll just start with Infowars because it wasn't just NPR; it's also PBS. CEOs were grilled on Capitol Hill using our taxpayer money to push propaganda. So it was a tense hearing helmed by the Doge chairwoman, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and NPR CEO Katherine Maher and PBS CEO Paula Kerger, although we'll let her off the hook. There was an interesting video with Elmo, but I don't know if I'm going to cover it in this particular broadcast. But they were both grilled on the respective public broadcasting networks' use of taxpayer money to fund slanted anti-Trump reports. So why don't we just take a look, starting the meeting off with a bang. MTG putting Katherine on the hot seat. So let's check out some of these clips. I probably won't run them all, but there are plenty of good moments to banter about. So let's start here.
Your public statements and social media posts reflect left-wing ideology and blatant opposition to free speech. After all, you were the head of Wikipedia for many years, which is a platform that doesn't tell the truth. Let's walk through some of your statements so the public can understand your personal views. Your fellow Americans.
And this is why it's good and why I'm focusing on the NPR lady and not the PBS, because the PBS lady was not making a lot of controversial tweets over the years. So it wasn't as many highlights. And yes, Christian, yes, defund everything. Defund steak sauce. I don't know what that's in reference to, but I agree with you. I am a purist. I do not believe in putting sauce on steaks unless, somebody makes it well done and it's shoe leather and it might need something to make it palatable. But otherwise, yeah, I'm with you, man. Just salt and pepper, ribeye, medium rare, it's all good. That's the best thing on earth. All right, so let's get back to MTG. Wonder how she takes her steak. All right, side issue for another day.
You said your fellow Americans just elected Donald Trump as president again this past November. You called him a deranged racist and sociopath. You posted on X.
Right there, that should have ruined your qualifications for even getting a job in the first place, unless you want to go along with your blatant partisan agenda. Thank you, Christian. Yeah, we're on the same page with the way we like our steaks. Good call. All right. So let's get back to partisan agenda.
America is addicted to white supremacy. It's appalling. You've publicly chastised using the phrase boy and girl, which you said erases the language for non-binary people. There's only two genders, by the way.
Yeah, that's kind of one of those things. Yeah, when you're born, you're either a boy or a girl. There's no such thing as non-binary. That is a term that comes up much later. And yeah, it's one of those things that just rattles Democrats' brains these days. They've lost their way.
Ms. Maher, the federal funding that your outlet receives comes from all American taxpayer dollars, not just from your viewers who support such statements as these. Let me inform you.
Yeah, that's one of the good points here. If you're taking funding from everybody, then you should be nonpartisan in the way you're presenting your information. And NPR does some good job. They do a good job with some of their investigative reports and some of their things. But when they talk about political events, they are completely skewed one way. So there should be, if people want to fund, if they want to donate money to NPR, I think it's a dumb idea, but go for it if that's what you like. But maybe they're only confirming your biases in the first place, and they're spreading propaganda, and you need to be aware of that. So we'll see. But are they?
And that your federal funding is also paid for by the other half of the country. The 77 million Americans who voted for President Trump, someone you called a deranged, racist sociopath. Ms. Maher, many find your pro-censorship and anti-free speech views more concerning than your politics. The only speech you like seems to be speech that you agree with. In 2021, you called the First Amendment the #1 challenge in American journalism because it makes it hard to crack down on bad information. You said in a TED Talk that our reverence for the truth might be a distraction.
Yeah, that's another thing. I'll get to that. There's several clips, so I don't want to get into too much, or maybe this is only a 3-minute clip. Then I got to figure out what's going on. We got to get Deb from SAC in here because I guess she's somehow blocked on this page. I don't know why. So Deb, if you could chime in from Twitter X, that would be better because I'm not seeing it. But I do have to point out, I'm not a big fan of the horseradish. I don't understand that one. But see, people take a beautiful piece of roast beef and then they smother horseradish sauce on it. I'm not really sure. I don't get that tradition. I love my standing rib roast for the holidays, but I'm not a big fan of the horseradish. A little too intense. But it's an interesting tradition for some. So anyway, let's continue here.
You've also expressed support for deplatforming individuals you view as fascist. Who do you think should be charged with cracking down on so-called bad information? Is it NPR? Is it the government? Is it you, Ms. Maher?
Congresswoman, Madam Chair, thank you so much for the opportunity to address this. I know.
Is it? It's going to be a long day, so just get ready.
Is it up to you and NPR to crack down on bad information or decide the truth? Answer the question, yes or no, Ms. Maher.
Absolutely not. I'm a very strong believer in free speech, and I believe that more speech.
Your public statements say otherwise, Ms. Maher.
Yeah, let's see what she would actually say behind the scenes, not when she's being, publicly grilled here. And it's gonna be a long day. So
In 2021, when speaking at an Atlantic Council event, you said that when you were CEO of Wikipedia, you took a very active approach to disinformation and misinformation. During the COVID pandemic and the 2020 election, you said you censored information through conversations with government. The Biden administration, yes or no?
Madam Chair, Wikipedia never censored any information.
These are your public statements, Ms.
Yeah, it's not going to be good. And yeah, she came from Wikipedia, which is, pretty questionable source of information. Some things they do okay, but there's an extreme bias within that organization. So why NPR ever thought she'd be qualified for this position is beyond me. But again, it's because it confirms what they want to believe. So this is the problem with the people in the bubble in the Beltway. Oh, perhaps I'm wrong here. Okay, we got another one for pro horseradish. All right, it's all good. Yeah, I don't know. I think I'd almost rather have A1 or something, a powerful steak sauce, than put horseradish on my roast beef. But to each their own, I suppose. All righty. Well, so let's get to some of the other videos I have in here. Going to be quite a bit of them, and they're pointing out the Elon Musk supposed Nazi salute earlier this year. But hey, getting back to this, so many times you'll hear in this discussion, and I'll try not to repeat too much because a lot of people are going to ask her very similar questions. But they have the receipts here, so I guess she wasn't vetted very thoroughly. It says, "What is that deranged racist sociopath ranting about today? I truly do not understand." So she just sounds like a rank and file leftist, not somebody that should be running a news organization, something that all taxpayers are funding. So let's get to the Nazi part.
In fact, when Elon Musk put his hand over his heart and extended it and told the American people, his heart goes out to them. PBS News posted the clip, called it a fascist Nazi salute, and described how it was similar to the same Heil used by Nazis at their victory rallies. Not once did PBS or NPR report on the numerous accounts of Democrats making the same gesture. AOC, Kamala Harris, Barack Obama, Elizabeth Warren, somebody that lost a presidential race, Hillary Clinton.
They're all Nazis. At least maybe according. I wonder if Bill Burr's gotten this memo here. If you'd like to clarify the record.
Governor Tim Walz. Why wasn't this treated exactly the same way? Is there not a standard in journalism today? Apparently not.
Yeah, very curious. Have they commented about that? Have they run a segment about how bad it is that so many people are doing Nazi salutes? Or were none of them actually doing a Nazi salute? It's one way. It's always against the other side. It's a double standard. And it's good to call it out. I think she dodged one of these meetings last year. I think they were trying to call her up to the Hill, and I don't know if she went or not. But yeah, she couldn't dodge this one. And now that's, it's the Doge meeting, and now they've got to decide, where they're going to be spending all of their money. Might be trying to cut back on some of these programs, especially if they're just, poisoning the public with propaganda. Okay, so I'm going to skip this one because it's goofy. It's in the PBS. Let's get back to the NPR.
Now, you've had a long history, including the thing that I mentioned, about lack of reverence for truth, and how reverence for truth, you've even talked about the First Amendment kind of getting in the way of what you wanted to get done. And then you're wanting us to believe that NPR is now taking this non-biased approach. I mean, where was the come to Jesus moment for you, I guess, that has turned you around and that we can trust the American taxpayer dollars with your leadership of NPR?
I so appreciate the opportunity to perhaps clarify some things. My talk about truth was really referencing the way that people use truth to refer to belief as opposed to facts. And my encouragement was that we focus on facts. With regards to the First Amendment...
That's not what your comment said. Your comment said that truth was getting in the way of getting things done and that you were prioritizing what you wanted to get done over truth.
Yeah, but once again, we have the receipts. So here she was not too long ago. I guess this was a TED Talk talking about this.
But one of the most significant differences, critical for moving from polarization to productivity, is that the Wikipedians who write these articles aren't actually focused on finding the truth. They're working...
So the people working on Wikipedia aren't focused on the truth.
For something that's a little bit more attainable, which is the best of what we can know right now. And after 7 years there, I actually believe that they're onto something. That for our most tricky disagreements, seeking the truth and seeking to convince others of the truth isn't necessarily the best place to start. In fact...
7 years at Wikipedia, but truth is not the best place to start. I don't know what the hell she's... I guess this is how they just justify all of the censorship that goes on at Wikipedia.
I think our reverence for the truth might have become a bit of a distraction.
Bit of a distraction. You gotta wonder if, like, Encyclopedia Britannica has these same types of meetings. It's not really about the truth. It's supposed to get everything you can right. Try to be relatively objective about it.
Preventing us from finding consensus and getting important things. A bit of a distraction.
Okay, so the truth has become a distraction.
Preventing us from finding consensus and getting important things done.
Getting important things done, like ends justify the means. Just what we want people to believe, not necessarily what the truth may be. Is that how I'm supposed to be interpreting this? But yeah, she's been under fire for this for a long time. Because you make statements like that, you have no business running a news organization. But maybe if it's a private one, or if you want to work for the Wonket or something. But yeah, not when you're taking taxpayer dollars to bring news to the public. Yeah, there you go. Teach her a few things. Let's see. No, I think that was an AI pick, definitely, Robin. But that was interesting. Yes, we had a delightful show, Toxically Masculine Tuesday, the other night, to cover some of the little more edgier things. Ah, Christian, we're on the ground floor of the first TED Talk. That's pretty cool. Yeah, sometimes they bring some good information out. But, well, this is revealing. Everybody's entitled to their opinion, I guess. And, yeah, this one kind of came back to haunt her. Okay. James Comer blasted Maher for NPR's misrepresentation and distortion of his investigation into the Biden crime family. Yeah, this is going to be pretty damning stuff, too. Let's check this out.
I don't even recognize the station anymore. It's not news. I feel like it's propaganda. I feel like there's disinformation every time I listen to NPR. And, you know, a media entity like MSNBC or Huffington Post that, in my opinion, consistently spews disinformation, they can do that. They're a private company. But NPR gets federal funds. And you know, I have a problem with that. Because if people in Alaska, if all they have is public radio, then all they know is what these headlines say. And they're wrong about COVID-19. And the headlines in the background don't have time to go over all these headlines that are wrong. About Russian collusion, wrong. About the Hunter Biden laptop, wrong. And then there's a story about me. And part of what we went through on this committee during the Biden investigation, which, by the way, ended with Joe Biden's last act as president of the United States, pardoned his entire family preemptively for an 11-year period, which just so happened to be the 11-year period that this committee investigated the Bidens, that we had subpoenaed bank records. I don't think NPR reported about the pardons, but they reported a lot about how there was no evidence of any wrongdoing and things that just weren't true. In fact, there's a story, NPR, lawmaker leading Hunter Biden House investigation, accused of owning a shell company. Well, that's me. Ms. Maher, are you familiar with that story that NPR wrote about me at the height of the Biden investigation when you all were disputing every aspect of our investigation that is 100% factual? We have hundreds of pages of evidence, hundreds of pages of bank records, hundreds of pages of emails. Do you remember the story that NPR wrote about me saying I had a shell company?
Congressman, I was not at NPR at the time, and I'm unfamiliar with the story.
Where do you get your sources on something like that? That's a very serious...
Yeah, there's going to be a shocking double standard coming up with Comer and Adam Schiff and the way NPR covered certain stories. That should be damning to them. In fact, I wonder if it's here. Let me check this clip out.
About this story, October 2020, the New York Post had the Hunter Biden laptop story, and one of those editors, I guess one of those 87 Democrat editors, said this: we don't want to waste our time on stories that are not really stories. We don't want to waste the listeners' and readers' times on stories that are just pure distractions. Was that a pure distraction story?
Our current editorial leadership believes that that was a mistake, as do I.
Yeah, the whole country knows that was a mistake. Definitely impacted the election.
Yeah, that was blatant election interference, too. They dismissed the entire Hunter Biden laptop story. And they never talked to Comer. All right, let's get another one here.
First of all, I do want to say that NPR acknowledges that we were mistaken in failing to cover the Hunter Biden laptop story more aggressively and sooner. Our current editorial leadership...
Wuhan?
We recognize that we were reporting at the time, but we acknowledge that the new CIA evidence is worthy of coverage and have covered it.
Yeah, we seem to have gotten all of the major stories wrong. Funny how that works. All right, let's move off of this. There was actually a really good exchange here from a freshman congressman who put her on the hot seat. TED Talk was Bill and Ted. There you go. All right, well, Christian, it was great to have you here. Take care. Have a great rest of your day and weekend. Yeah, I missed that. Those are the days. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Great movie. The sequel was pretty good. I don't know about the third one, but I guess they just wanted to put something together for fun. But anyway, yeah, good series. All right, great reference. Okay, well, let's move on here. Let's check out this freshman Congressman Brandon Gill making a name for himself. I never heard of him, but he's certainly on my radar today. Grilling Katherine Maher of the NPR. So he's calling her out for many of the tweets that she wrote, some just like in the last few years. He's not like he's taking a deep dive and finding stuff from like, 2012 or something when, maybe she was in high school. I mean, I don't know how old she is, but I mean, it's not like they're digging that far back. You're only going just a few years. Well, she was still at Wikipedia. I don't know if this is running here. Hold on.
Sir.
Sorry, the error, my user error. I'm running the error. My bad. Okay, let me start this over because I was on the wrong page. Here we go.
Do you believe that America is addicted to white supremacy?
I believe that I tweeted that, and as I've said earlier, I believe much of my thinking has evolved over the last half decade.
It has evolved. Why did you tweet that?
I don't recall the exact context, sir, so I wouldn't be able to say.
Okay. Do you believe that America believes in black plunder and white democracy?
I don't believe that, sir.
You tweeted that in reference to a book you were reading at the time, apparently, The Case for Reparations.
I don't think I've ever read that book, sir.
Tweeted about it. You said you took a day off to fully read The Case for Reparations. You put that on Twitter in January of 2020.
Apologies, I don't recall that I did.
Okay.
I wonder who's actually running her Twitter account. She doesn't have a very good memory. Or she's up playing stupid, but they've got the receipts. This is inexcusable. Just admit it. And just say you've grown past it.
No doubt that
Which is saying a little bit.
Your tweet there is correct, but I don't recall that.
Okay. Do you believe that white people inherently feel superior to other races?
I do not.
You don't? You tweeted something to that effect. You said, I grew up feeling superior. How white of me. Why did you tweet that?
I think I was probably reflecting on what it was to grow up in an environment where I had lots of advantages.
It sounds like you're saying that white people feel superior.
I don't believe that anybody feels that way, sir. I was just reflecting on my own experiences.
Do you think that white people should pay reparations?
I have never said that, sir.
Yes, you did. You said it in January of 2020. You tweeted, yes, the North, yes, all of...
She did not show up very prepared for this. I don't know. You got all these Congress people digging through your background and you didn't think that you're just blindsided by all of it? Oh my goodness. All right, let me back up a little bit.
You said it in January of 2020. You tweeted, yes, the North, yes, all of us, yes, America, yes, our original collective sin and unpaid debt, yes, reparations, yes, on this day.
I don't believe that was a reference to fiscal reparations, sir.
What kind of reparations was it a reference to?
I think it was just a reference to the idea that we all owe much to the people who came before us.
That's a bizarre way to frame what you tweeted.
It sure is. What else did reparations mean?
Okay, how much reparations have you personally paid?
Sir, I don't believe that I've ever paid reparations.
This is what's hilarious when you take a rabid leftist out of their bubble and you have to deal with other people and getting your reality exposed in real time. It's not good. Long day for her. Big reality check.
Okay, it's just for everybody else.
I'm not asking anyone
Seems
to pay
to be what you're
reparations, sir.
suggesting. Do you believe that looting is morally wrong?
I believe that looting is illegal, and I refer to it as counterproductive. I think it should be prosecuted.
Do you believe it's morally wrong, though?
Of course.
Of course. Then why did you refer to it as counterproductive? It's a very different way to describe it.
It is both morally wrong and counterproductive, as well as being illegal.
You tweeted, it's hard to be mad about protests in reference to the BLM protests, not prioritizing the private property of a system of oppression. You didn't condemn the looting. You said that it was counterproductive. NPR also promoted a book called In Defense of Looting. Do you think that that's an appropriate use of taxpayer dollars?
I'm unfamiliar with that book, sir, and I don't believe that was at my time at NPR.
You tweeted that you read that book, but...
That's not a good look. That's, one of my questions. NPR CEO Katherine Maher, should she resign ASAP? Perhaps. I mean, if she has some dignity, I don't know. Or else she's got to convince everybody that she's changed her ways. I don't know if anybody should buy it. All right, you got a quick clip from Timber Chet of Tennessee. I've already zipped ahead on this one. Let's check out another one.
I don't buy that argument.
We do have
I
a
wonder
separate
if any of the
ballot
members
sheet
of
with
the
us,
committee would comment real quickly. Would you agree that Real America's Voice, Newsmax, Fox, or News Nation, if they were to see federal funds, would you all support that? Yes or no? Mr. Ullman? Yes or no?
I'd have to get back to you on that.
Come on, man. You got to get back to you on that. The answer is no. This is what I was getting to earlier. You wouldn't, right? Because they're far right? Maybe they're far. I don't know if they're that far right. But I mean, it's the double standard. So NPR is far left, and it's okay for them to take taxpayer dollars, but you can't go give money to somebody, the Breitbarts or the Newsmaxes or the OANs or the Real America's Voice. No, they should. I wouldn't think that we should support them with taxpayer funds either. Really, not that many news outlets. I mean, everyone's got their own biases, but you're supposed to earn your subscribers by establishing trust or putting out some good information. They've gotten just so accustomed to just doing things their own way and just getting, all the money showered on them. But now they've got to change that around. Got to start cutting back here. Waste, fraud, and abuse. So, got to cut some of these programs. Okay, let's got a few more seconds here.
Ma'am?
Yeah. I actually don't have an opinion about that.
Ma'am?
Don't have an opinion on that one.
I don't have an opinion about that, sir. That would be Congress's decision.
Thank you, Chair Lady.
Thank you.
That's weak. Okay. Got another one for you from Representative Fallon. Talking about the double standard here and of the coverage. It's another angle of this.
And PBS. Ms. Maher, I'm sure you're aware that Hunter Biden had a laptop.
I am, sir, yes.
Okay. And there were many stories written about said laptop.
Yes, sir.
And in 2020, unfortunately, NPR's managing editor for news refused to cover the story, and he branded it a, quote, waste of time, not a real story, and a distraction. And instead, unfortunately, of NPR investigating, they ran a puff piece that led with, experts say attack on Hunter Biden addiction deepens stigma for millions. It's unfortunate that NPR ignored the Hunter Biden laptop story, but y'all did talk quite a bit about the debunked Russia collusion. Do you know how many times NPR interviewed Adam Schiff about
Congressman, I would love to say that we actually believe we made a mistake on the Hunter Biden laptop story.
And I appreciate that. Thank you. How many times did y'all interview Adam Schiff about the Russia collusion?
I'm sorry, I don't have that number.
It was 25 times. You know how many times NPR interviewed Chairman of this committee, Oversight Committee, Jamie Comer, about?
Yep, we just saw James Comer, who's ran the investigation on the Biden crime family and all their shady business dealings.
The Biden impeachment inquiry, or the Hunter Biden tax evasion and illicit business dealings of the Biden family.
I'm sorry, I don't know.
I believe that's 0, so it's 25-0. Ms. Kerger, you're aware there's a political spectrum. It goes all the way from the far right to the far left and everywhere in between. Would it trouble you to hear that for 6 months, there was an analysis done on PBS's NewsHour from June to November of 2023, where they found that far right that term was used 162 times and far left was only used 6 times. Do you find that troubling?
Listen to the PBS.
I don't know the study that you're referring to, and I'd be very interested in seeing it.
Really? You never heard of that? You're the CEO of PBS? You never heard that? You never, that Media Research Center?
And understanding how they came up with those numbers.
Media Research Center did a 6-month analysis, and it's not how you find it. You either say far right or it's terms. Yeah. They use the term far right 162 times, far left 6 times. That's a 96 to 4% skew. You're also aware that you covered the GOP and Democratic National Conventions in 2024?
Yes, we did.
Okay. Interestingly, 72% of the coverage of the GOP convention was negative, 88% of the Democratic convention was positive. Shouldn't be surprising when you have anchors like Amna Noat.
Okay. Well, demonstrating the favorability of the coverage versus what they see as the far right, and how and their favoritism towards the DNC, as well as the Russian collusion hoax. So they interviewed Adam Schiff 25 times, but then when Comer, he had a great investigation going against the Biden family, and 0 times did they even reach out to him. So massive double standard, extreme bias. So let's check out another clip. Almost done. Told you, it's going to be the headline story. Got to do a big, thorough piece here on NPR. Put NPR out of its misery. And it's just with its own facts here, not just because I'm, biased to some degree. They are. And people need to be aware of this. And it really frustrates me just in my own personal life. So many people that I know who I, barely talk to anymore. A lot of them just because they love NPR. Why would they listen to me? I'm a crazy, wacko conspiracy theorist. They trust the people on NPR. They even give money to them. But why? They're being poisoned by the propaganda, and they don't realize it. Okay, so let's check this clip.
Former senior business editor for NPR.
How long do you work at NPR?
I believe he was there just over 25 years.
25 years? Award-winning journalist? Did you win any awards?
What is this guy's name? Uri. He was one of the great journalists that they had, who was like the one kind of lone Republican, sort of conservative, right-leaning editor that they have, an award-winning journalist who kind of blew the whistle on them and said, I've been here for like 25 years, and oh my God, this has changed dramatically over the years. They're not the same organization. They clearly have a major bias. Of course, he's out. They let him go, but then they're keeping Katherine here. So let's keep going.
Our time to
Peabody Award, that's pretty important, isn't it?
That is, absolutely.
So pretty distinguished journalist, right?
Certainly.
And he wrote a long story about what you do at NPR. Is NPR biased?
Congressman, I have never seen any instance of political bias determining editorial decisions.
That's because she is in her own bubble and she believes the BS. So now she's on Capitol Hill getting her bubble popped.
No.
Well, Mr. Berliner.
Yeah, Uri Berliner.
In his story last year wrote, in the DC area, editorial positions at NPR, he said he found 87 registered Democrats, 0 Republicans. Is that accurate?
We do not track the numbers or the voter registration, but I find that
Was
concerning.
award-winning journalist who worked 25 years at NPR, Mr. Berliner, was he lying when he wrote that?
I am not presuming such. I just we don't track that information about our journalists.
87 to 0, and you're not biased.
I think that is concerning if those numbers are accurate.
It's I mean, it wasn't 44-43, it wasn't 60-27, it wasn't 70-17, it wasn't even 80-7. It was 87 Democrats, 0 Republicans, and you say NPR is not biased. How about the big stories over the last few years? According to Mr. Berliner, again, he wrote on the Trump-Russia story, he wrote, at NPR, we hitched our wagon to Trump's most visible antagonist, Representative Adam Schiff. He said they interviewed him 25 times.
Okay, well, we don't want to repeat that, but we get the point there again. So how do you make that? I mean, how do we justify taxpayer dollars going to an organization that is 87 to 0 as far as their voting record goes, as far as their political bias? I mean, that'd be like, MSNBC. We wouldn't fund Fox or Newsmax or any of that stuff. So you can't do this. You can't be that extreme partisan. So it's good that this is getting exposed. Everybody needs to see this. And they should just absolutely start defunding NPR immediately. They should be warning people about giving them any more money, because it's just all confirmation bias. They tell you what they want to believe, but not necessarily what the truth is. She's admitted she doesn't even care that much about the truth. She came from Wikipedia. Very bad. Babylon B, skewering them, says, NPR says they always strive to feature a broad range of opinions from slightly communist to very communist. Yeah, it's just, slightly moderate left or extreme left. That's it. There's no other way you can spin that with 87 to 0. I'm not sure if this is repeating information or if I was going for the tweet, and I think this is my last one. Maybe. Let's go. Okay, so that's the same one. We won't repeat that. Yeah, the taxpayer-funded arm of the DNC. Yeah, how else can you spin that? So they don't want them to cut their funding because they support the Democrats. It makes them look good. So they're fighting to keep that funding. And so they're just going to find their supporters to give them money because they think they're being told the truth, but clearly they're not. There's way too many examples. This is damning. There's no way around this. Okay, let's see. NPR's leftist CEO's testimony is laughable, but the joke's on the taxpayer. Sure is. Yeah, it's been a long week. Want a good laugh? Well, we've gone through all of the major highlights, I think. I got everything. Oh, here she is. Katherine Maher with her all masked up, wearing her Biden president hat. That's a impartial journalism. Wikipedia, I mean, that's another joke right there. I mean, they never should. It's just a basic vetting. Basic vetting through her tweets and her history at Wikipedia and that TED Talk. And she should have been, nope, sorry, Katherine, good luck to you. Keep your job at Wikipedia. We hold ourselves to higher standards here at NPR. That's right, here it is. Highest journalistic standards. That these public stations operate independently. Give me a break. So yes, there she is. It's all exposed. And perhaps something will be done. The end of an era for the state-run propaganda media outlet. Okay, So I think that covers it. Those are the top two subjects. NPR, should they be defunded for their obvious biases? Yes, there's no doubt. NPR, should she resign ASAP? Yeah, I think she'll be fine. But I mean, I don't know. I don't know how much money that is or how it's going to affect them or their programming. But yeah, they should probably move on from her. You probably find, I don't know, at least 20 voices, maybe get rid of, they got 87-0 for their, top editors that are all, registered Democrats. That's problematic. And I have to start shuffling some people around. But I mean, really, I think it's pretty much over. Why fund it? There's so many other organizations that are out there. They don't need to use taxpayer funding. It could be better served on something else. Maybe they can clean up PBS, but I think NPR is already, they're gone. Maybe they can come back in some other capacity, something completely non-biased. Maybe they can just merge them with PBS, and the rest of them can go try to find jobs at MSNBC or CNN. I don't know. Yeah, there you go, Frankie. Yeah, I agree. Defund them. It's done. It's over. The end of an era. You had a good run. All right. Well, let's move on. Got 5 other stories. How long did that take? Oh, I started this show late. All right, so I'm not at the hour mark yet. All right, that's good. Okay, some of the other ones are going to be pretty short, I think. So we'll try to keep this reasonably tight. Okay, well, let's jump to the next one. The Atlantic, they overplay their hand to oust Pete Hegseth. And it looks like, yeah, it's already over. I mean, when I woke up this morning, I thought, okay, well, they're going to just keep milking this as this, huge scandal. It's going to take down Hegseth and Mike Waltz and so many others. And I expected them to keep the pressure on, but I was kind of surprised. It's almost like it's disappeared completely. There's still a few remnants. I'm going to cover that. But I mean, even just going over the leftist Twitter and some of their publications, I really didn't see them continuing to try to push for, something to happen. Now, this war plans leak signals scandal could have been bad, assuming, you had a spy in the room and you leaked plans and, American military got, caught up and, ambushed. This could have been bad. Is either a mistake or it was intentional. It's looking like there was probably an inside job to some degree. We'll get into that, but I think it's already kind of lost its steam already. It wasn't the scandal they wanted it to be. So even the Atlantic, they backtracked on their war plans leak story after the controversy. It was a little sloppy, absolutely. With Jeffrey Goldberg, a terrible, biased journalist, neocon who hates Donald Trump, somehow ended up in this high-level Signal group chat and then leaked out the information, claimed it was war plans, but they really lacked a lot of the specifics. So, well, it definitely wasn't a good thing. It wasn't nearly as bad as it could have been. If we were, at war with a formidable adversary and these things leaked out to the wrong people, this could have been pretty devastating. Fortunately, that did not happen. Hopefully everybody learns their lesson, but they've still got to do at least an internal investigation to find out exactly how this happened. And things are still not adding up here. So, Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, and yeah, the Atlantic has conceded these were not war plans. It's another hoax amplified, a mountain out of a molehill. written by a Trump hater who is well known for his sensationalist spin. Yeah, he's pushed several hoaxes before. Yeah, the suckers and losers, and also helped get us into war over the phony WMDs in Iraq and Saddam, which does make me suspicious with some of the people here involved. I don't know the Mike Waltz guy that well, but he did work. He was an advisor to a lot of the neocons I despise, like Cheney and Rumsfeld. So I'm already skeptical. And his deputy, his assistant, was kind of being exposed the other day. Laura Loomer thought she had a big scoop, and maybe she does. There could be some internal sabotage happening. If they want to continue that. But it looks like it's kind of petered out a bit. All right, let's check out another article here with Pete Hegseth saying these are some really shitty war plans with the Atlantic bombshell after the signal chats were released. Because he says they're not really war plans because there's no names, no targets, no locations, no units, no routes, no sources, no methods, no classified information. And people are also concerned that using Signal, but Signal is, they do consider it kind of a gold standard for security. And as long as they're not, it's not a government channel, if they're not using classified information, then it shouldn't be a problem. Just an easy to use app. Plus they have to be, the Trump administration's already got to be on high alert from all the leaks that they had in the previous administration. So you start using the official government channels, which you want to do because you want to trust the elements of your own government. But I mean, they can't trust the CIA or the FBI or the NSA. I mean, are you going to get your next Alexander Vindman or Eric Ciaramella, some whistleblowers on the inside trying to promote some big scandal because they were on a chat? Be this replay of this, but this chat still got infiltrated. And of course, with Signal, they got to keep public records somewhere. I don't know if these messages disappear or not. There's definitely some controversy. That's another angle of it. Try to be intellectually honest about it. Just fortunately, it didn't get. This wasn't a big scandal but it could have been. Babylon B did a great job pointing this out. Yeah, Hegseth kicking himself for not just getting 13 soldiers killed and giving $80 billion in weapons to terrorists. Yeah, it was pretty ridiculous when they're trying to manufacture a giant scandal out of this. Nobody died. No, there wasn't some sort of, counteroffensive ambush run by the Houthis because they got wind of this leaked Signal conversation. And yet when you look at, all the scandals of the past, whether that's the WMDs I just mentioned that didn't exist, or whether that's the Afghanistan withdrawal where, yes, 13 soldiers were killed and all kinds of equipment was left over for the terrorists to take, for the Taliban, and whoever they sold things to. Or is it Benghazi? Is it Hillary and her private home server? Or using BleachBit to delete the evidence? Smashing phones with hammers? There's a lot of major scandals out there. But comparatively speaking, this was not one of them. Anywho, let's keep moving along. Yeah, was Mike Waltz a source for Jeffrey Goldberg while serving on the House Intel Committee? Yeah, there's something about him I really don't trust. Well, they see he's a good man. He's a Green Beret, served his country. I don't know if he's been in office for like 27 years. But he's still a neocon. He's a little too cozy with the wrong people. And it's also been exposed that he's been around Goldberg a few times before. And then how did Goldberg's number get on his phone? How did he possibly add him to this group chat? It's not really helping his case much. And then we can bring up the top deputy, Alex Wong. Laura Loomer was saying there's a possibility that people in his family are connected to the CCP. So he could be a Chinese spy in there. It's also been, he used to be a big staffer for Tom Cotton, who's also kind of a shady neocon, war hawk. And perhaps that was, he was personally recommended by Senator Cotton, perhaps to infiltrate the Trump organization. I don't know. We're making speculations. We're trying to connect the dots. But this interview here that Michael Waltz did on the Laura Ingraham show did not assuage my concerns either. Let's check this one out.
But I can tell you for 100%, I don't know this guy. I know him by his horrible reputation, and he really is the bottom scum of journalists. And I know him in the sense that he hates the president, but I don't text him. He wasn't on my phone, and we're going to figure out how this happened.
So you don't know what staffer is responsible for this right now?
Well, look, a staffer wasn't responsible, and look, I take full responsibility. I built the group. My job is to make sure everything's coordinated.
But how did the
execute.
I mean, I don't mean to be pedantic here, but how did the number?
Have you ever had somebody's contact that shows their name, and then you have somebody else's number there?
I never make those mistakes.
Right? You got somebody else's number on someone else's contact. So of course I didn't see this loser in the group. It looked like someone else. Now, whether he did it
yeah, I'm not buying that BS. You have a very select group of people that you were putting into this chat, including the highest level people outside of the president. But you got the VP Vance on there, along with the Pete Hegseth, Tulsi Gabbard, big cabinet members. And then this hack from the Atlantic gets in there? That's incompetent or intentional. Let's keep rolling.
Deliberately, or it happened in some other technical mean is something we're trying to figure out.
So your staffer did not put his contact information. But how did it end up in your phone?
That's what we're trying to figure out.
Okay, but that's a pretty big problem.
That's what we've got the best technical minds, right?
That's disturbing.
And that's where, I mean, I'm sure everybody out there has had a contact where it was said one person and then a different phone number.
But you've never talked to him before.
I can't relate to that. But again, I'm not like, a high-level journalist, say like at Fox or Laura or so many others that might have, a far bigger group of names in their phone than I would. But I'm not buying that. It just doesn't seem to add up to me, but let's keep rolling.
So how's the number on your phone? I mean, I'm not an expert in any of this, but it's just curious. How's the number on your phone?
Well, if you have somebody else's contact and then somehow it gets
someone
sucked
sent
in,
you that
it gets
contact.
Sucked in.
Was there someone else supposed to be on the chat that wasn't on the chat that you thought was
So
on
the person that I thought was on there was never on there. It was this
Who
guy.
was that person?
Well, I'm not. Look, okay. Laura, I take responsibility. I built the group.
Doesn't want you to know. Some people have figured it out. Figured it out, yes. Another person with the same initials. But then this guy's saying he doesn't know Goldberg. So there's another person by, JG, Jeff George. I mean, I don't know. Oh, he was supposed to be in there? So some people have speculated who it might be. Is somebody within the Trump administration who might be authorized. This was a pretty big mistake, unless it was intentional. And some have said, well, let's see here. And he made this into a scandal when there didn't really need to be one, just the way that he fumbled this, which Glenn Greenwald points out. Mike Waltz had just admitted the truth from the start that he had Goldberg's contacts saved in his phone and accidentally put him in the war plan group. Would have been a one-day story. Instead, it became like a 3-day story. I didn't think there was much to it, but it's really started to balloon yesterday, and I did think it was going to continue to be the headline. But not so much. Yeah, the inside job. The Atlantic's Jeffrey Goldberg may have infiltrated Trump's security chat. Was it intentional? I asked Grok about it. I had an interesting conversation trying to work the CCP spy angle, and with Tom Cotton, perhaps trying to sneak in a saboteur. That was a big problem in the first Trump administration. It was the neocons. They were leaking things. They were working against him from the inside, and Trump was surrounded by vipers. So you got to be careful about that. But yeah, I mean, if any, I'm also thinking that if they could have, maybe he'll step down. I don't know. That's kind of one of the things that feel like, well, even though it didn't really turn into a full-blown scandal, there should be an investigation. And they got to maybe take a closer look at Wong, and they got to take a closer look at Waltz here. And maybe one or both of them has to step down. But maybe somebody should be held accountable. Unlike some of the other major scandals where nobody did. Just trying to be intellectually honest about it. Okay. Well, let's move on. So the Atlantic overplayed their hand to oust Hegseth. Yeah, might be able to take down Waltz. But it was it could have been. It could have been, but not a real scandal. All right, next story. Judge Boasberg. Should he be investigated for conflicts? Yeah, let's jump into these new developments. There's a tweet from Nick Sortor saying the activist judge is blocking Trump from deporting violent gang members, and he's intentionally delayed the release of Hillary Clinton's emails from the 2016 election. So there's several things. There's several problems with this kind of rogue activist judge over the years. So this guy is going to be presiding over this new Signal case. So they are going to take a closer look. Determine whether they can use Signal, whether these tweets should have been classified, whether Waltz made a mistake, whether they leaked this intentionally. But really, Boasberg should just recuse himself right away. He's clearly a biased judge, at least in my opinion. And according to Nick here as well. Laura Loomer here. President Trump has called for the investigation of Judge James Boasberg. Yes, and he's just consistently interfering with the agenda of Donald Trump. And he is just a federal district judge. He's not Supreme Court. Here's the tweet or the truth post from Trump himself. How disgraceful is it that Judge Boasberg has just been given a fourth Trump case? Something which is statistically impossible. There is no way for a Republican, especially a Trump Republican, to win before him. He is highly conflicted as TDS. And he's getting all of the Trump cases all to himself. So he's kind of questioning the process and how are the judges chosen, fairly or at random. So I don't know. Maybe they'll ignore it. Maybe they'll get rid of them. Maybe they'll change the procedures. Let's take a quick look at this. Yeah, the appeals court has denied the Trump Department of Justice request to lift Boasberg's block on Alien Enemies Act deportation flights. So they're trying to send out all these violent criminals. A lot of them, these train de Aragua, violent, dangerous gang members, and they sent them to El Salvador to be put in that supermax where they belong to keep the public safe. And Boasberg is trying to prevent that from happening. And it turns out his daughter is involved in putting together like legal cases for these illegal aliens. So he's worried about protecting the clientele for his daughter. So it's a conflict of interest. That's one angle. Let's move to a next one. It's from Mike Benz saying, a good lawyer knows the law, a great lawyer knows the judge. So this is back from 2016 when I was talking about Hillary's email scandal, running a private server in her house, sending classified emails around. Now that's a pretty big potential scandal, especially if she would have gotten hacked. Maybe she did. I don't know. They said she didn't. Then she wiped her servers clean. But yes, he released that because it didn't want an October surprise that might hurt her election chances. But fortunately, Trump won anyway. Because that would have been something. I thought it was like 33,000 emails, but okay. Well, there's the 14,000 new ones for 15,000. All right, but maybe they can get around this judge who's impeding. And Speaker Johnson saying that Congress can eliminate district courts. So while pursuing the impeachments of activist judges has been a hot topic, Republican lawmakers are also considering other options to deal with a seemingly partisan legal system. Yeah, especially now. Now that you got Boasberg, not only is he interfering with deporting violent criminals, but now he's going to be looking over this signal scandal. Doesn't make any sense. So you got a Republican Congress. It's time to stop with this nonsense. Said Congress can eliminate an entire district court. We have the power of funding over the courts and all these other things, but desperate times call for desperate measures, and Congress is going to act. They push too far. So it's time to push back. Okay, well, I'll let the legal experts worry about that. That's not my expertise. But I do know that this judge has had several instances in the past that show, at least to me, that he's pretty biased. And I asked Grok about it. Give me a list of all the controversial cases. I know there were several. So yeah, it's the Alien Enemies Act deportation case, the Signal Group chat lawsuit. He's also involved in the January 6th Capitol riot sentencings. And he often imposed sentences lighter than prosecutors sought on Ray Epps. And some of them have accused him of bias for not condemning Antifa or FBI involvement. So maybe this is mixed. He is also a part of the FISA court tenure and Trump-Russia investigation. So to target Trump and get him on his campaign, or thinking that they were colluding with the Russians and allowing the deep state basically to spy on the populist candidate. Of course, the Hillary Clinton email cases. So Grok isn't too worried about bias, but I disagree. Perhaps I'm wrong, but perhaps they should just dismiss him entirely. Anyway, well, we'll see how that develops. Okay, what's next? That's the update there. Judge Boasberg, he's back. Now he's got another big case. All right, so what is the next topic? This is going to be a real quick one. Trump is right to primary Massie and endorse Lindsey. A little bit of a surprise here. It's from Clint Russell from the Libertarian Party, saying when you're trying to oust Thomas Massie and endorsing Lindsey Graham, I think it's fair for your supporters to ask why. So Donald Trump has just fully endorsed Lindsey Graham. Senator Lindsey Graham, South Carolina. But I mean, to be fair, he's been pretty loyal to Trump. So I get it, but I like Thomas Massie, and Lindsey Graham has always been one of the more shady characters, the continuous warmonger. So much of the nasty stuff he did with John McCain, promoting moderate rebels. It just is meddling with the moderate rebels in the Middle East. Or whether it's supporting bad elements in Ukraine, he's always pushing for war. He's always stirring up trouble somewhere. But he is loyal to Trump. Thomas Massie, very principled. I like him. But I'm just trying to just show here that unlike a lot of the leftists that are just 100% one way and they have full-blown TDS. There's a lot of other, pro-Trump people, including myself, who do have issues. He's not perfect. We don't agree with everything that he says. So we also have to, kind of hold everybody to account. So I don't know. Lindsey Graham, he's been a troublemaker for so long. I think he's irredeemable. Does do some good things. Few and far between, but does he need another 6 years? I'm kind of in that term limit category too. I don't know if he needs another full 6-year term, but maybe that's just me. So is he wrong on this one? It's a controversial one, that's for sure. So I'll say no to Lindsey, but Trump can speak for himself, and from his own personal perspective, I get it. But I'm not going to agree with primarying Massie, who I do think is a good man, even though he's not going to rubber stamp Trump's MAGA agenda. Okay, let's move on. Got a couple more quick stories, and we'll call it a day. 20 years. How about 20 years in prison for vandalizing Teslas? Is that overkill? It's a tweet here from Health Ranger Mike Adams saying, although he despises these anti-Tesla terrorists as much as the rest of us, 20 years in prison for keying a Tesla vehicle is judicial overkill. Punishment should fit the crime. He's suggesting more like 30 days in jail and a $25,000 fine, plus they have to pay for the repair of the vehicle. That would send the desired message and still respect judicial discretion. Yeah, I don't know about the how many people have actually gotten 20 years. Certainly they want to make some examples of some people as a lesson, as a warning to the rest not to continue this ridiculous terrorism. They're going after their own people, which is odd. These people are just kind of unthinking drones. They're easily controlled, which is pretty dangerous. And they're just going straight to crime. Just like they see Teslas on site and they're ready to, go vandalize it. It's crazy. I don't know. So I'll agree with Mike here to some extent. Yeah, 20 years is way too much. There might be a couple examples where maybe it does fit the crime, but not for keying up the car. $25,000 is a lot of money, though. Maybe they got to find a balance. Maybe depending on how people can pay for it. Because $25,000, that might be a lot. Try to pay that all off. And over how long of a time span. And, they don't need to necessarily go to some, federal institution. go to a minimum security joint where they just have to serve out a punishment. Do a lot of volunteer work. I don't know. So yeah, they got to find a healthy balance there. I would agree with that. I don't know what you guys think. Here's here's a tweet here from Brooks Agnew. Talking about they found this Karen keying a Tesla in Washington State. I think it's Washington State. She's been identified as 55-year-old millionaire Camelia Ensler. So let's check out this clip. Let's see how bad this is. And should she, Brooks is saying, yeah, she might go to prison, lose her money, lose her marriage, children, never have a passport again. Is the rage worth it? It depends on if it's, the felony level vandalism, and maybe that's going to vary by state. Here we go. I don't know if we have any volume. Oh, okay, there she is. Now all these Teslas are built in with cameras. Who knew? So there she is, taking a big swipe, taking a little chunk of the paint out. Yeah, that doesn't seem too bad. I don't know if that's 20 years there. But certainly she could afford the $25,000 fine. So she actually makes a point to stop. So here she is in her Toyota Highlander. And she decides, you know what? I'm so mad at this Tesla owner, or is this Tesla? Somebody's got a Tesla. It's not like they just bought it and it's got, I love Elon written on it. I mean, they're not thinking, they're just reacting, which is a bit terrifying. But she actually makes a point to stop, get out of her vehicle, and, I'm just going to, take a swipe, take a chunk of paint out of their car. That'll teach them a lesson. Even though whoever owned that Tesla, I'll bet was probably shares her political views. Who knows? Maybe they got NPR on their radio. And then some other Karen is going to swipe your car. So I don't know. I wouldn't call that a felony. But yeah, if she's a millionaire, why not just give her a big fine? Got to make an example out of some of them. All right, let's check another one out. This one is Tim Pool shared this one. And they still haven't gotten the memo that there's cameras all over these cars. All of these people are going to be caught.
By glances over at the car, and moments later they return and quickly start keying the passenger.
Now this one is a bad one. The other lady just took a little swipe, and this girl here is really going to town.
Door with a phone in the other hand.
You can tell in the video.
Oh, she's taking pictures. She's recording the criminal evidence here.
Dude, like they're actively starting to record, and they're recording the whole thing. You can easily tell this is a targeted. Like there's intent there, and they, kind of a mockery of it, right? With all the recording.
Seconds later, the vandal runs off. The owners, who asked to remain anonymous, notice the damage about a half hour later and say since then they have felt unsettled and somewhat fearful.
Yeah. Really stupid. Now this guy, so they've just found out this big attack here in Las Vegas. They've made an arrest now as a 36-year-old named Paul Kim. This is arson charges and possession of an explosive device. Accused terrorist is believed to have pulled out a gun and shot the cars along with igniting Molotov cocktails. 5 vehicles were damaged in the incident, and Kim was booked on 15 counts. Now this one is definitely, this is one of the 20-year varieties. And there's nothing he can be done. I mean, you could have gotten people killed with this reckless act. I don't think there's any volume. Nope. That's a pretty ugly incident. That is domestic terror. So yeah, that one deserves 20 years. And what for? It's a lot of nonsense. It's a lot of demonization of Elon from these leftist outlets, where it's NPR, MSNBC. You should talk to any of them, man. They just hate Elon, man. And for what? They can't give you a reason why. But some of them are just, they're misinformed because they're buying into the fear mongering. They're terrified that somehow, so he's cutting waste, fraud, and abuse, which is like, USAID, slush funds, maybe defunding NPR. There's a lot of places to cut back, or whether the Social Security system is being abused. So what do the Democrats respond with? Oh, they're going to go after your Social Security. Not true. Or they're going to go after your Medicaid. So people are freaking out about that, but there's no truth to that. So anyway, I mean, this is a Salon article. Yeah, look at this. Help keep Salon independent, written right at the top. They're not getting taxpayer money. And they don't deserve it. They're a far left publication. But I wouldn't support taxpayer funding for Breitbart either. So I don't know. They're expecting deep cuts to Medicaid. People relying on the program. They're freaking out. Now the GOP has promised not to cut benefits, combined with their promise to find savings in the government, has led analysts to suspect that the party might be eyeing a change to federal funding for Medicaid expansion. This would allow Republicans to not directly cut Medicaid benefits, instead pushing the hard decisions on what benefits to cut to the states. But if you'll notice this last sentence here, now reporting in Axios and the New York Times has validated this theory. That's just what it is. It's a theory. It's fear-mongering that he's going to cut your Medicaid. They're going to take away your Social Security. No, they're worried they're not going to be able to fund Medicaid and Social Security because they're wasting so much money on all these stupid programs. If you don't tighten things up financially, there isn't going to be enough money for the ones we want. So they need to get that through their heads. Anywho, yeah, here's Frankie saying they're adults who knew better, lock them up. Yeah, they're going to have to do something. They're going to have to be punished. They're going to have to get that word out that you can't get away with these terror attacks, which is what it is. So I don't know. It'll be on a case-by-case basis, and I suppose maybe state by state, depending on their laws. So it's got to be severe, but it's going to depend on how bad it really was. And they're going to have to pay for all the damages for sure. It's not going to work out too well. Yeah, they should know better, but they're just not thinking. They're only reacting, which is wild. Don't know why that is. Anywho, all right, what else do I got? I got, where are we at? 123 mark? Wow, this one's gone a little bit longer today. That's because I had a lot of videos to cover with that big NPR headline story. So there's really not much for me to get into on this one. The last story is kind of cool. It's about the Ark of the Covenant. Some weird, this is going around here. Explosive CIA document that has come out, and it's alleging that the U.S. knows where the Ark of the Covenant is. From probably my favorite movie of all time, Raiders of the Lost Ark. Said the legendary chest said to house the Ten Commandments. It's been one of history's greatest mysteries. Many believe it was lost during the Babylonian conquest of Jerusalem way back when, in 586 BC. A newly surfaced CIA document suggests the U.S. government may have known its location for decades. This is where it gets weird because it's about remote viewing. So I guess it's been declassified in 2000, and I don't know why all of a sudden this has became a major story today. And it's not just here; it's out of the New York Post, and it's been talked about on Twitter X. So there's a document details a 1988 experiment conducted under Project Sunstreak. It's a secret U.S. intelligence program that explored the use of remote viewing. I don't know, this is going into like men who stare at goats territory, where individuals allegedly perceive distant objects or events using only their minds. And they've shown some limited success with this, believe it or not. It's not that far-fetched. But how accurate can you really make it? Some people are more gifted than others. But in this particular session, a psychic known as remote viewer number 32 was given coordinates without knowing the target, and they said the ark was hidden underground somewhere in the Middle East. I've heard this. This is, Brianna Morello, investigative journalist, I do believe, saying that they found the Ark of the Covenant has been found and may lie somewhere in Ethiopia, and that's what I've heard as well. I heard that from Graham Hancock, and that's how he kind of got into that whole world of ancient apocalypse and doing all that research on these ancient civilizations and structures around the world. That was his gateway into it as a journalist in England, I believe. And then he went out on an assignment, Ethiopia, to investigate the Ark of the Covenant, and he seems to think that they have it there. And it gets really weird, as though some of the people that guard it, they don't live that long. Like, they keep this thing under wraps. Like, this thing has got some really, I don't know, some high level alien technology, or it's radioactive, or there's something very odd and mysterious about this. But maybe some of that stuff they showed you even in the Raiders of the Lost Ark wasn't that far-fetched. Not supposed to mess with this thing. It is a technology beyond our understanding, and it is underground and kept safekeeping for a reason. Would not want something like that getting into the wrong hands, but perhaps it's all science fiction. What do I know? It's just an interesting story. Here's one from Jimmy Corsetti. He does a lot of good work. He's exposing a lot of the archaeological fraud happening with Göbekli Tepe. And in fact, I believe he's going to be on a show with Piers Morgan. He's got a pretty good debate show against one of his nemesis, Flint Dibble, and also a nemesis of Graham Hancock. A lot of interesting banter they have with Joe Rogan. This one's going to be with Piers Morgan. That could be very interesting. He says if the Ark of the Covenant had been discovered in Ethiopia, the United States military-industrial complex would have miraculously found WMD in Ethiopia and would have invaded and stole it. Now, it's possible. We saw what happened to the Nazis in the Raiders of the Lost Ark. They thought they'd had gotten this technology and they were going to dominate the planet with it, and it ended up being used against them. And then they kind of showed it at the very end of the movie as though they were kind of rolling it into a box deep into the archives somewhere. It's too dangerous for us to mess with. But it's also, this is out of the New York Post. CIA confirming. This is all brand news today, brand new news. CIA confirming the Ark of the Covenant's existence using remote viewing. So I don't know why. This is all of a sudden a hot story now, but it is one of the most interesting relics on the planet. And it may not be from the Earth. Who knows? So I don't know. Be careful with that stuff. All right. Well, I think that's all I've got. Or did it come from Ark of the Covenant? It said, hold the original 10 commandments brought down by Moses from Mount Sinai. I don't know. What do you guys think? Well, I know what I think. It's about my time to go. I don't want to. We're about the 90-minute mark, which is like where I like to set the boundary for the show. So it's been a pleasure. I thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. Please like and subscribe, and we'll do this all again next Tuesday. Who knows? Maybe I'll do another weekend show if there's any interesting breaking news over the weekend. But for now, I think it's past my time. Covered everything. Thank you again. Love you guys. Shout out to Frankie and Christian and Robin and Deb and everybody else lurking and anybody watching the replays. You guys rock. Appreciate your support. We'll catch you all next time. But for now, gonna run. I am out. Take care.